What's green and smells like pork? It's Kermit the Frog's fingers. What's brown and sticky? A stick. Yeah, jokes. I got jokes for you, but time to get pretty serious. It's been a while. I've been flying around like a blue-ass fly and I just haven't had time to stop, but I'm here. I'm back. I'm doing it again. And, oh gosh, I don't want to drain the battery in the car. Done that before a few times. Deary gosh, Grandaddy. Well, it's a new series I'm doing. It's called The First Chapter. Well, I'll read the first chapter of a book for you. And if you like it, you can go out and get it, can't you? What ifs? Blade Runner, Philip K. Dick, a.k.a. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Okay, let's do it. Chapter 1. Here we go, let's get it on. Chapter 1. A merry little surge of electricity, piped by automatic alarm from the mood organ beside his bed, awakened Rick Deckard. Surprised. It always surprised him to find himself awake without prior notice. Duh. He rose from the bed, stood up in his multicoloured pyjamas, and stretched. Now in her bed, his wife, Iran, opened her grey, unmerry eyes, blinked, then groaned and shut her eyes again. You set your Penfield too weak, he said to her. I'll reset it and you'll be awake, and keep your hand off my settings. Her voice held bitter sharpness. I don't want to be awake. He seated himself beside her, bent over her. I thought it said bent her over. That's what I'd have done. And explained softly. If you set the surge up high enough, you'll be glad you're awake. That's the whole point. At setting C, it overcomes the threshold, barring consciousness as it does for me. Friendlily, that's a strange word. Because he felt well disposed towards the world, his setting had been set at D. He patted her bare, pale shoulder. Get your crude cop's hand away, Iran said. I'm not a cop. He felt irritable now, although he hadn't dialed for it. You're worse, his wife said, her eyes still shut. You're a murderer hired by the cops. I've never killed a human being in my life. His irritability had risen, had become outright hostility. Iran said, just those poor Andys. I notice you've never had any hesitation as to spending the bounty money I bring home on whatever momentarily attracts your attention. He rose, strode to the console of his mood organ. Instead of saving, he said, so we could buy a real sheep to replace that fake I'm going to do this. I'm going to be modelling up my words, aren't I? Never mind, I ain't getting paid for this. Instead of saving, he said, so we could buy a real sheep to replace that fake electric one upstairs. A mere electric animal, and me earning all that I've worked my way up to through the years. At his console, he hesitated between dialing for a thalamic suppressant which would abolish his mood of rage, or a thalamic stimulant which would make him irked enough to win the argument. If you dial, Iran said, eyes open and watching. Typical woman. For greater venom, then I'll dial the same. I'll dial the maximum, and you'll see a fight that makes every argument we've had up to now seem like nothing. Dial and see. Just try me. She rose swiftly, loped to the console of her own mood organ, stood glaring at him, waiting. He sighed, defeated by her threat. I'll dial what's on my schedule for today. Examining the schedule for January 3rd, 1992, he saw that a business-like professional attitude was called for. If I dialed by schedule, he said warily, beaten down by the bitch, I'd have saved up and got an electric wife. Fucking sheep, come off it. Sheep shag, I mean, come on. If I died by schedule, he said warily, will you agree to also? He waited, canny enough not to commit himself until his wife had agreed to follow suit. My schedule for today lists a 6-hour self-accusatory depression, Iran said. What? Why did you schedule that? It defeated the whole purpose of the mood organ. I didn't even know you could set it for that, he said gloomily. I was sitting here one afternoon, Iran said, lazy bitch. She'll be doing this. He's at work all day and she'll just be sat there, the fucking mardy cunt. And naturally, I had turned on Buster Friendly and his friendly friends. Arrested Development. A fucking child, this. And he was talking about a big news item is about to break, and then the awful commercial came on. The one I hate. You know, for Mountebank lead cod pieces. Mountebank lead cod pieces, come on. And so for a minute I shut off the sound. And I heard the building, this building, I heard the... She gestured. Empty apartments, Rick said. Sometimes he heard them at night when he was supposed to be asleep. And yet for this day and age, a one half-occupied Connacht building, rated high in the scheme of population density, out in what had been before the war, the suburbs, one could find buildings entirely empty. Or so he had heard. He had let the information remain second-hand. Like most people, he did not care to experience it directly. At that moment, Iran said, when I had the TV sound off, I was in a 382 mood. I had just dialed it. So although I heard the emptiness intellectually, I didn't feel it. My first reaction consisted of being grateful that we could afford a Penfield mood organ. I'd be getting up and fucking going out listening to this. But then I realised how unhealthy it was, sensing the absence of life, not just in this building but everywhere, and not reacting. Do you see? I guess you don't. But that used to be considered a sign of mental illness. They called it absence of appropriate effect. So I left the TV sound off when I sat down at my mood organ and I experimented. And I finally found a setting for despair. Her dark, pert face showed satisfaction, as if she had achieved something of worth. So I put it on my schedule for twice a month. I think that's a reasonable amount of time to feel hopeless about everything. About staying here on Earth and everybody who's smart has emigrated, don't you think? But a mood like that, Rick said, you're apt to stay in it, not dial your way out. Despair like that about total reality is self-perpetuating. I program an automatic resetting for 3 hours later, his wife said sleekly. A 481. Awareness of the manifold possibilities open to me in the future. New hope that... I know 481, he interrupted. He had dialed out the combination many times. He relied on it greatly. Listen, he said, seating himself on the bed and taking hold of her hands to draw her down beside him. Even with an automatic cut-off, it's dangerous to undergo a depression, any kind. Forget what you've scheduled and I'll forget what I've scheduled. We'll dial a 104 together and both experience it. And then you stay in it while I reset mine for my usual business-like attitude. That way, I want to hop up on the roof and check out the sheep and then head for the office. Meanwhile, I'll know you're not sitting here brooding with no TV. He released her slim, long fingers, passed through the spacious apartment to the living room, which smelled faintly of last night's cigarettes. Then he bent to turn on the TV. From the bedroom, Iran's voice came. I can't stand TV before breakfast. Dial 888, Rick said as the set warmed. The desire to watch TV, no matter what it's on. No matter what's on it. I told you I was going to do it. I don't feel like dialing anything at all now, Iran said. Then dial 3, he said. I can't dial a setting that stimulates my cerebral cortex into wanting to dial. If I don't want to dial, I don't want to dial that most of all. Because then I will... Bang! I'd have fucking put her down, this one. Dear me gosh, I don't want to dial that most of all, because then I will want to dial. And wanting to dial is right now the most alien drive I can imagine. I just want to sit here on the bed and stare at the floor. Her voice had become sharp with overtones of bleakness as her soul congealed, and she ceased to move, as the instinctive, omnipresent film of great weight of an almost absolute inertia settled over her. He turned up the TV sound, and the voice of Buster Friendly boomed out and filled the room. Ho, 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 folks. Time for a brief note on today's weather. The Mongoose satellite reports that fallout will be especially pronounced towards noon, and then taper off, so all you folks will be venturing out. ... Appearing beside him, her long nightgown trailing wispily, Iran shut off the TV set. Okay, I'll give up, I'll dial. Anything you want me to be. Ecstatic sexual bliss. I feel so bad I'll even endure that. What the hell? What difference does it make? I'll dial for both of us, Rick said. She must be going through the change, this one. Dearie gosh, what's with her? I'll dial for both of us, Rick said, and led her back into the bedroom, depressing, fucking miserable cunt. Golly gosh, man, keep her in bed, I wouldn't talk to this one. I'd be like, I'm going to work, bye. In fact, I'd fuck with her settings. I'd keep her in a constant fucking muffy mood. I'd be like, you stay like that, and I'm off ski. Off a trap, bye-bye. There at a console, he dialed 594. Pleased acknowledgement of husband's superior wisdom in all that matters. Good idea, Rick Deckard. Good idea. On his own console, he dialed for a creative and fresh attitude towards his job. Although this he hardly needed, such was his habitual, innate approach without recourse to Penfield artificial brain stimulation. After a hurried breakfast, he's wasted a bunch of time, hasn't he? Dear me gosh, he'd lost time, I hope. Lost time due to the discussion with his wife. He ascended, clad for venturing out, including the Ajax model mountebank lead codpiece, to the covered roof pasture, whereupon his electric sheep grazed, whereon its sophisticated piece of hardware that it was, chomped away in simulated contentment, bamboozling the other tenants of the building. Of course, some of their animals undoubtedly consisted of electronic circuitry fakes too. He had, of course, never nosed into the matter, any more than they, his neighbours, had pried into the real workings of his sheep. Nothing could be more impolite. To say, is your sheep genuine, would be a worse breach of manners than to inquire whether a citizen's teeth, hair, or internal organs would test out authentic. The morning air, spilling over with radioactive motes, grey and sun-beclouding, belched about him, haunting his nose. He sniffed involuntarily the taint of death. Well, that was too strong a description for him. He decided as he made his way to the particular plot of sod, which he owned along with the unduly large apartment below. The legacy of World War terminus had diminished in potency. Those who could not survive the dust had passed into oblivion years ago. And the deranged minds, I missed the part, and the dust weakened now when confronting the strong survivors, only deranged minds and genetic properties. Despite his lead codpiece, The dust undoubtedly filtered in and at him, brought him daily, so long as he failed to emigrate, its little load of befouling filth. So far, medical checkups taken monthly confirmed him as a regular, a man who could reproduce within the tolerances set by law. Any month, however, the exam by the San Francisco Police Department doctors could reveal otherwise. Continually, new specials came into existence, created out of regulars by the omnipresent dust. The saying currently blabbed by posters, TV ads and government junk mail ran, "Emigrate or denigrate, the choice is yours." Very true, Rick thought as he opened the gate to his little pasture and approached his electric sheep. "But I can't emigrate," he said to himself, "because of my job." The owner of the adjoining pasture, his co-nap neighbour Bill Barber, hailed him. He, like Rick, had dressed for work, but had stopped off on the way to check his animal too. "My horse," Barber declared beamingly. "He's pregnant." He indicated the big percher on which stood, staring off in an empty fashion into space. "What do you say to that?" "I say pretty soon you'll have 2 horses," Rick said. He reached his sheep now. It lay ruminating, its alert eyes fixed on him in case he had brought any rolled oats with him. The alleged sheep contained an oat tropic circuit. At the sight of such cereals it would scramble up convincingly and amble over. "What's she pregnant by?" he asked Barber. "The wind." "I brought some of the highest quality fertilising plasma available in California," Barber informed him. "Through inside contacts I have with the State Animal Husbandry Board. Don't you remember last week when our inspector was out here examining Judy? They're eager to have her foal. She's an unmatched superior." Barber thumped his horse fondly on the neck, and she inclined her head toward him. "Ever thought of selling your horse?" Rick asked. He wished to God he had a horse, in fact any animal. Owning and maintaining a fraud had a way of gradually demoralising one. His wife's hard enough fucking work. Dear gosh. And yet from a social standpoint it had to be done, given the absence of the real article. He had therefore no choice except to continue. Even were he not to care himself, they remained his wife, and Iran did care very much. Barber said, "It would be immoral to sell my horse." "Sell the colt, then. Having 2 animals is more immoral than not having any." Puzzled, Barber said, "How do you mean?" "A lot of people have 2 animals, even 3, 4, and like in the case of Fred Washburn, who owns the algae processing plant my brother works at, even 5. Didn't you see that article about his duck in yesterday's Chronicle? It's supposed to be the heaviest, largest Muscovy on the west coast." The man's eyes glazed over, imagining such possessions. He drifted by degree into a trance. Exploring about in his coat pockets, Rick found his creased, much-studied copy of Sydney's Animal and Fowl Catalogue January supplement. He looked in the index, found colts, vide horses, and presently had the prevailing national price. "I can buy Percheron colt from Sydney's for $5,000, he said aloud. "No, you can't," Barber said. "Look at the listing again. It's in italics. That means they don't have any in stock. But that would be the price if they did have. Bit like getting hold of a PlayStation 5. There we gosh. Suppose," Rick said, "I pay you $500 a month for 10 months, full catalogue value." Pityingly, Barber said, "Deckard, you don't understand about horses. There's a reason why Sydney doesn't have any Percheron colts in stock. Percheron colts don't just change hands at catalogue value even. They're too scarce, even relatively inferior ones." He leaned across their common fence, gesticulating. "I've had Judy for 3 years. And not in all that time have I seen a Percheron mare of her quality. To acquire her, I had to fly to Canada, and I personally drove her back here myself to make sure she wasn't stolen. You bring an animal like this anywhere around Colorado or Wyoming and they'll knock you off to get hold of it. You know why? Because back before WWT, there existed literally hundred. I'm running ahead of myself. But Rick interrupted. For you to have two horses and me none. That violates the whole basic theological and moral structure of mercerism. You have your sheep. Hell, you can follow the ascent in your individual life, and when you grasp the two handles of empathy, you approach honourably. Now, if you didn't have that old sheep there, I'd see some logic in your position. Sure, if I had two animals and you didn't have any, I'd be helping deprive you of true fusion with Mercer. But every family in this building, let's say, around 50, 1 to every 3 apartments as I compute it, every one of us has an animal of some sort. Grayson, that's that chicken over there. Chickencraft. He gestured north. Oakes and his wife have that big red dog that barks in the night, he pondered. I think Ed Smith has a cat down in his apartment. At least he says so, but no one's ever seen it. Possibly he's just pretending. Going over to his sheep, his fake sheep. Rick bent down, searching in the thick white wool. The fleece, at least, was genuine, until he found what he was looking for. The concealed control panel of the mechanism. As Barbara watched, he snapped open the panel cover in revealing it. See, he said to Barbara, you understand now why I want your colt so badly? After an interval, Barbara said, you poor guy. Has it always been this way? No, Rick said, once again closing the panel covering of his electric sheep. He straightened up, turned and faced his neighbour. I had a real sheep, originally. My wife's father gave it to us outright when he emigrated. Then, about a year ago, remember that time I took it to the vet? You were up here that morning when I came out and found it lying on its side and it couldn't get up. You got it to its feet, Barbara said, remembering and nodding. Yeah, you managed to lift it up, but then after a minute or two was something of... And then after a minute or two of walking around, it fell over again. Rick said, sheep get strange diseases. Or put another way, sheep get a lot of diseases, but the symptoms are always the same. The sheep can't get up and there's no way to tell how serious it is. Whether it's a sprained leg or the animal's dying of tetanus. That's what mine died of. Tetanus. Up here, Barbara said. On the roof. The hay, Rick explained. That one time I didn't get all the wire off the bale. I left a piece and Groucho, that's what I called him then, got a scratch. And in that way contracted tinnitus. I took him to the vets and he died. And I thought about it. And finally I called one of those shops that manufacture artificial animals and I showed them a photograph of Groucho. They made this. He indicated the reclining ersatz animal, which continued to ruminate attentively, still watching alertly for any indication of oats. It's a premium job, and I've put as much time and attention into caring for it as I did when it was real. But, he shrugged. It's not the same, Barbara finished. But, how much of this is left? Oh, no, not far to go. But almost. You feel the same doing it. You have to keep your eye on it exactly as you did when it was really alive. Because they break down and then everyone in the building knows. I've had it at a repair shop 6 times, mostly little malfunctions, but if anyone saw them, for instance, one time the voice tape broke. Or anyhow got fouled and it wouldn't stop barring. Oh, they'd recognise it as a mechanical breakdown, he added, The repair outfit's truck is of course marked Animal Hospital something, and the driver dresses like a vet completely in white. He glanced suddenly at his watch, remembering the time. "I have to get to work," he said to Barbara. "I'll see you this evening." As he started towards his car, Barbara called after him hurriedly. I won't say anything to anybody here in the building." Pausing, Rick started to say thanks. But then something of the despair that Iran had been talking about tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, "I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make any difference." "But they'll look down on you." "Not all of them, but some. You know how people are about not taking care of an animal. They consider it immoral and anti-empathic. I mean, technically, it's not a crime like it was right after World War III, but the feeling's still there." "God," Rick said futilely, and gestured empty-handed. "I want to have an animal. I keep trying to buy one, but on my salary and what a city employee makes. If," he thought, "I could get lucky in my work again, as I did 2 years ago when I managed to bag 4 Andes during 1 month. If I had known then," he thought, "that Groucho was going to die. But that had been before the tetanus, before the 2-inch piece of broken hypodermic like baling wire." "You could buy a cat," Barbara offered. "Cats are cheap. Look in your Sydney's catalogue." Rick said quietly, "I don't want a domestic pet. I want what I originally had, a large animal, a sheep, or if I can get the money, a cow or a steer, or what you have, a horse." The bounty from retiring 5 Andes would do it, he realised. $1,000 apiece over and above my salary. Then somewhere I could find from someone what I want, even if the listing in Sydney Animals and Fowls is in italics. $5,000. But he thought, the 5 Andes first have to make their way to Earth from one of the colony planets. I can't control that. I can't make 5 of them come here, and even if I could, there are other bounty hunters with other police agencies throughout the world. The Andes would specifically have to take up residence in Northern California, and the senior bounty hunter in this area, Dave Holden, would have to die or retire." "Buy a cricket," Barbara suggested wittily. "Or a mouse. Hey, for $25 you can get a full-grown mouse." Rick said, "Your horse could die, like Groucho did, without warning. When you get home from work this evening, you could find her laid out on her back, her feet in the air like a bug. Like what you said, a cricket." He strode off, car keys in his hand. "Sorry if I offended you," Barbara said nervously. In silence, Rick Deckard plucked open the door of his hover car. He had nothing further to say to his neighbour. His mind was on his work and on the day ahead. "Oh, right, end of chapter 1, we did it, we got through it. Now I mumbled and jumbled my way through it, but, you know, not bad for a first attempt. That pretty fun stuff. I do like Philip K. Dick, and I'll be reading the rest of it and then I'll give my review. Right, nearly 30 minutes of pure Grandaddy gold again." Excuse me, like I said, I've been away, been busy. Been a busy boy, but thought I'd come and say hello. How you doing? I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too irksome and annoying hearing me guffaw and muddle my way through it, but yeah. You know, what are we going to read next? I don't know. I'll pick up another book. I'll read out the first chapter. Now, recently read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, fantastic book. Franz Kafka's The Trial. I've been reading a lot lately, so I'll be giving you my reviews. As I do. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to give you 30 minutes. 30 minutes uncut. Just, you know, I'm just doing this. You know, out of the goodness of my heart, I thought I'd say hello. I thought I'd say, how you doing? All right, God bless. All the best. Yeah. Don't forget to throw up the praises to the one who amazes, always is, night and days is, yays. That's what I says is. And I'll catch you on the next one. What will it be? I don't know. I might surprise you. You know, I'll keep you guessing as to what it might be next. I don't even know myself. I'm just rambling. I want to keep going for 30 minutes. And then I could say I've made a 30-minute video. 30 minutes. Thank you very much. Right, God bless you. All the best. I'll catch you on the next one. Ta-ta, kidders. Ta-ta.